Ms. Byram, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mrs. Dawson?
Here.
Mrs. Harrington?
Here.
Mrs. Quintern?
Here.
Mr. Rickett?
Here.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the presence of a quorum.
All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hornick, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Over to you, Dr. Hornick.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. We'll go to A this evening. I don't see Colonel Fritz at the time, but our first one is a field trip request and this is routine. Our JROTC program does this pretty much every year, where they go to Cadet Leadership Challenge at Barfoot in Blackstone, Virginia. And we are looking forward to them to be able to engage in this opportunity from the 18th to the 23rd. And you see we will have an activity bus going. This will likely be one of our new white buses, 14 passenger. So we're looking forward to be able to access those with 12 students and a chaperone.
Are there any questions? Would we like to go ahead and move on this, or we want to hold till the 6th?
Move to approve as presented.
May I have a second?
I second that.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. Next, I have Ms. Ayler coming forward to review the local special education annual plan. Ms.
Hi.
Ayler.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Hornick. I'm here to present the annual plan for special education. The annual plan addresses just our federal funding for special education, and it addresses services for students 5 to 22 and 2 to 5. So that's why there are two different pots of money. And at the top, you'll see it says that the plan for 22-23 had been implemented as written. Our plans actually the funding is for 2 years, so everything is always a year behind. So, but our plan from the 22-23 school year was implemented as written. Our plans actually from year to year are the same. For the most part, we talk about the services that we have provided for students. We provide the continuum of services. Sufficient staff, making sure students were evaluated, and we conducted child find, which is students who are suspected of having a disability. So the Section 611 is the first part of the grant, and this is the 5 through 22 funding. And our budget for that is, we used last year's amount, so the actual amount this summer may change and we'll have to amend the budget. But they tell us to use last year's amount. So it was about $1.2 million. And most of our funding all goes to personnel. So there's personnel, employee benefits, and then there is a piece that is for purchase services. It's broken down into several different areas. One is the CEIS, which are coordinated early intervening services. So we have to show where we have obligated funds for those services. And proportionate set aside is actually money that we have to set aside for students who have an individual service plan. So these would be students who attend a private school within the boundaries of Orange County or are homeschooled, and were students identified as a student with a disability and their parent is choosing to accept services for their student. And so when we provide those services, we have to indicate the funding when it gets submitted to the state as proportionate set aside. If not all the funds are expended by the end of the 2 years, then we can use that funding for it kind of goes back like to a general fund about 3 months before the grant ends. But we do have to make sure that we offer services to those students as well. The second page, page 2 is the 619 funds. So these are for our early childhood special education students. And this federal funding is a lot smaller. It's only about $31,000 that we receive. But again, a lot of it goes to personnel and benefits. We do also have to obligate a portion for early intervening services, and again for proportionate set aside, because there are some students who are early childhood special education that we offer services to that might attend a daycare, but they don't come here, or again, they might be homeschooled students. So we offer services for those students as well. We have to certify maintenance of effort each year. So part of the federal funding and IDEA, which is the federal law for students with disabilities, it's a regulation where we have to certify that we will spend as much for students with disabilities next year as we did for this year. And there are several conditions that we have to meet, and that's done through the annual plan that Mr. Honecker does for finance, but we have to certify that each year that we are going to spend the same amount. And then we also have to serve students who might be in Central Virginia Regional Jail. Those would be students who come to the jail or are placed in the jail who are between the ages of 18 and 22. And anytime a student comes in, or an individual in that age range, they conduct an interview to find out, did you finish school? And if you didn't finish school, are you interested in services? And did you have an IEP or identified as a student with a disability when you were in high school? If they were and they want to finish their education, then we are responsible for providing services. We don't have a lot of students that fall into that category, particularly because Central Virginia Regional Jail, the inmates don't stay very long, so they're not there for a long term. They're kind of in and out in a couple days or maybe a week, and so over time we haven't provided a ton of services, but there have been several students that we have provided some very short-term services for. And that is the annual plan for special education. Any questions?
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, can you explain to me the child find activities? I know you've talked about it before, I think, but I was wondering if you could explain that.
Sure. So Child Find is where we as a school division have to actively make sure that we are looking, are there students that are need to be identified as a student with a disability or are suspected of having a disability. So we might get referrals from teachers, we get referrals from parents. We also coordinate with doctors' offices and other community agencies like Infant Toddler Connection that is through our Community Services Board, but it's where we are actively advertising that we do the evaluations and that we can screen children if you suspect that your child has a disability. So that's what Child Find is.
Thank you. That's it.
Anything else? All right.
Looks great.
Thank you.
I would ask one more question.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Just on the MOU, or maintenance of effort, excuse me. I know you said we had to spend the same as last year. That's a federal
Correct.
requirement. And I know that there are also, I believe, 3 reasons that you could justify for reducing that amount. Can you tell us what those would be?
So some of the reasons that you could justify would be, say there was a reduction in force that wasn't through, or you've had individuals who have left not through a reduction in force, and the salaries that you're going to spend are going to be a lot less. Or maybe you've had an expensive program. So for example, there are some school divisions that offer maybe a program for students who are hearing impaired or students who are deaf. And so that involves a lot of equipment, it involves a lot of individuals and interpreters. Say for example, those students happen to graduate and you didn't have a need then for the interpreters and some of those specialty services. And so if that reduced what you were going to spend by a significant amount, that can be one of the exceptions.
Okay.
So it's situations like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Susan, members of the board. Next, I'll bring Greg Hill forward, and I believe the next 2 are both yours, correct, Greg?
That is correct.
And so first we'll have a surplus, and second will be some information about a Chromebook vendor,
Yep.
supplier.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Hornick, thank you. Just bringing forward some more surplus items. This is something we're doing on a regular basis to keep our technology fresh, refreshed, and taking care of things that are broken or no longer functional for us. We do e-cycle, and we do get return on some of the items from the company that we use to do that e-cycling.
How often do you, oh, excuse me. Sorry. How often do you do this?
About every 3 months, but we collect the items and then we will call the company to collect after we get approval from the board. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
This is typical for end of the year. with
Yes,
large amounts.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So if it's listed as not broken, then it's
It's-
just obsolete technology, can't be updated.
It's either obsolete or in many cases we are on a 4-year replacement cycle. So we will take things out of inventory every 4 years. So they've reached the end of that or they've reached the end of their life.
That's old age in digital world.
Yes. Yeah, 4 years is long enough. Yep, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Sorry. So not to think that we're just taking things out all the time, I'd like to bring in our student Chromebooks for next year. We went out for bid on an RFP. We had 8 bids that were submitted with one vendor withdrawing their bid. So there were 9 overall, but one was withdrawn. So the winning bidder was CDWG in the amount of $391,638. And that will be for 1,300 Chromebooks. You can see below the scope of goods and services. That's what we were asking for, and that's what they'll be providing for us. And again, that's a 4-year warranty that we get on those so that after 4 years, they're ready to be turned over.
Yep, go ahead.
Done business with them before?
We do business with them regularly. They're excellent to work with. Their service on our broken Chromebooks is pickup and delivery right here at Teague. So it's just amazing what they're doing with that. They turn them around in a week.
That's really what I wanted to know. Service after the sale.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Yep.
for looking into that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Okay,
Sir?
thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg. Next, we have Mr. Arnold. Doug?
Thank you, Dr. Hornick. Madam Chair, members of the board. Today we present our annual lease renewal for the Boys and Girls Club at the Teak building here in the back of the building. And this is an annual renewal. The current lease agreement went into effect on May 3rd, 2021. And so this lease is renewable administratively for 1 additional year and will expire and have to be renegotiated, so to speak, in 2026. This lease covers rooms 14, 57, 58, 59, and 60 at Teak, and they are also granted use of the gym in cooperation with Head Start and other operations there. The administration recommends that school board renew the lease covering the period from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. We will request approval at the next regular meeting. However, I do have the leases with me if we should decide to approve those at this time. Any questions or comments from the board?
Anybody have any questions?
No changes or anything?
No, sir. The revenue amount is once again $14,496 for the year.
Okay. And you already have it on our schedule for the May 6th meeting?
I do.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. So, obviously, utilities, all the expenses have gone up. Have we reevaluated what the costs are for that area that they're using?
Not this year. When we went with the solar project, we evaluated that and found that it had dropped considerably. So we chose to leave it alone. Without doing a detailed analysis, I don't feel it has risen up above where it was when we first negotiated the lease.
Okay. The amount just seems small, that's all I'm considering.
It is.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of a subsidy. It's a good program. It's a very cooperative effort with the schools and with the community.
Is this based off of our evaluation, or is this something that the Boys and Girls Club, kind of as far as what they're being charged at other locations?
This was our offer to them
Okay,
at
gotcha.
the time. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Next, I believe we have Dr. Honegger for Albemarle Regional Migrant Education Program membership. Renee?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm here to request that once again we are part of the Regional Migrant Education cohort. We don't have any students, but if we did, then we would work with Albemarle County Schools and the other schools in that to serve those students. And I just have to return the certification that we want to continue to be a part of this group.
You recommend?
Yes.
Yes. Does it cost us anything?
No.
Are you feeling better?
Yes. Thank you.
Have we had students there in the past?
Not as long as I have been here that I know of. I don't, in the past several years when Mr. Barry used to do this, not me. So I don't remember him ever saying we had students. So.
Can you give a brief explanation of what they would get by?
Well, it's similar to like what we use with our ELL students, but migrant students would just receive more intensive services to make sure that their education is what they need, the services they would be provided, because they are a transient population. So it would just be more services like that.
I got you. Okay. Anything else?
I think it's a great program to at least have available for our
Yes,
students.
if we need it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And next we have Dr. Wolfrey Judy to bring forward language arts textbook adoption information.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Hornick, members of the board. Tonight, I'd like to share information about our textbook review process and also bring forward a proposal. So this year, we are looking at adopting K-5 language arts text, which is 2 years ahead of our typical cycle. And the impetus for this has really been the Virginia Literacy Act, which requires that every school division implement instruction with high-quality materials that have been approved by the Virginia Board of Education beginning in the 24-25 school year. So on this slide, we've just provided a timeline of the process we've gone through as a division, starting with the release in November of the list of approved materials by the Board of Education. We did start forming our textbook adoption committee very shortly after that. I want to thank Ms. Weaver, who is our coordinator of humanities, for her leadership and expertise in this area. We are also very happy that we had board member participation during this process. Ms. Dawson took the lead on that, and at two times, Ms. Quintern and Ms. Anderson also joined our committee when Ms. Dawson was not able to be there. In addition, we had representation from our school administrators, each of our schools, each grade band within those schools, and specialists, including those who serve students with disabilities, English language learners, and gifted students. Following the release of all of those texts, our teachers did review those. We also provided an opportunity for public review of the materials, including online links, as well as hard copies that were available here at the division office. And then we came back together as a team numerous times. The teachers shared the materials with the teachers back at their schools. Those teachers were able to complete a rubric, which I'll talk a little bit about in just a little bit. And then we were also able to review the community input that had been provided. Now we're looking in the next month or so to move forward with purchase of materials, implementation of professional development, and a timeline for that, so that we'll be ready to begin with our students in the fall. Ms. Weaver worked very hard to narrow down the list that was provided by the Board of Education at the state level, and using what she knew about the science of reading. And I do want to point out that she has been involved with the state and the region very heavily from the beginning of the Virginia Literacy Act, and has a great deal of knowledge in this area. And she was able to narrow those down to 3 textbook companies and publishers that we considered, and that was based on the needs of our students and teachers. And so we reviewed these textbook companies, products from Bookworms, Amplify, Core Knowledge, and Imagine Learning. Our teachers used rubric. They also had access to the Virginia Department of Education rubric that was used in the review. They took a look at the philosophy, how well the materials aligned with our philosophy as a division, the environment that we need to establish for our students, the planning needs of our teachers, as well as oral language, reading instruction, and of course, very important writing component that would be integrated with that, the access we would have to student texts, technology support, and assessments. Some additional considerations that we actually came back together as a team and spent an additional meeting that we had not planned was taking a look at the new standards that are being implemented and ensuring, and I believe Ms. Quintern, you were there for that meeting, ensuring that the materials really supported learning at the level of rigor that the standards will require. We actually spent a whole meeting doing that. Additionally, our teachers talked quite a bit about making sure that the materials support new teachers who may not have a lot of experience or training in the area of reading instruction, as well as clarity and structure for our teachers who are veteran teachers. We also looked at specific groups of students and their learning needs. And we were also very careful to look at making sure that the materials provided a broad range of topics so that students are building background knowledge in many areas that will support them not only in their current year of instruction, but as they move forward in subsequent years. And then again, the community input, which I believe we had 4 parents and 2 community members who submitted input to us. At the conclusion of all of the input from teachers and their reviews, as an administration, we're bringing forward a recommendation to adopt Amplify Core Knowledge Language Arts. This would be a 6-year contract. Within that contract, it includes the hard copies as well as digital access for both teachers and students, trade book collections for each of the classrooms, professional development for our teachers, and a progress monitoring tool that aligns with the instruction as well. As of today, we are sitting at a quote of $863,208. We're still negotiating a bit on the professional development as far as format and the number of professional development sessions, which could bring that cost down a bit. But we've negotiated quite a bit. We have reduced all of the costs for shipping that's been taken out, as well as some other areas. The digital subscriptions, for example, are at no cost. So that is the recommendation that we would like to bring forward to the board. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions. I do want to highlight the work that you 2 ladies did among other staff members, teachers. There was a couple others that weren't actually teachers, if I recall as well. So a lot of work did go into this, and I appreciate that. And this is another, I don't know, the board's not privy to it, but I did have some conversations as to the Department of Education and the timelines that are a struggle for our staff. And so this is another reason why the legislative committee that Sandy and I are heading up is going to be a benefit, because we're going to be able to make those connections to our legislators, who will be able to also connect with the Department of Education and other leaders within state government, so that way we have a voice and a seat at the table for you all. So just wanted to add that in there as well.
Thank you.
And I'd also just like to say thank you. It was a joy to be part of the meetings, and I was just totally impressed with the way the whole timeline was set up, the buy-in from the staff and teachers, and how much time they spent reviewing, and a lot of people spent reviewing. Some of us spent reviewing too. So, I mean, we did a little bit. You guys did massive. So I know it was huge, and I appreciate it, and I'm pleased with the whole process. Has been really remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you. We especially want to thank our teachers, because the teachers who were representatives invested a great deal of time, not only in our meetings, but also meeting with the staff back at each school, and sharing information. I didn't include in my comments, although it was in the slide, that we also had presentations from a representative from each of the companies who highlighted lessons, the materials, as well as the professional development.
Yes, thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
I was only at the first meeting, but I can't imagine what all of the other ones to come to one conclusion. That was well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
One quick question. So there's a cap on the digital. Is that what you're negotiating?
No, actually, the digital license are at no cost. It's the hard copy materials. We are talking about the professional development, how that's delivered, the format, the frequency, the number of years.
The number of years.
Yes, this was a 6-year contract, so we do want to make sure that we're getting a good price, and that's going to stay consistent as we move forward in the following years for new teachers, primarily.
Perfect. Thanks as always for your due diligence, Dr. Wolford.
Thank you.
If I could ask one more question, since you brought up the professional development piece. So what is offered through CKLA, will that meet our Virginia requirements for PD on the Literacy Act, or is that a completely different?
It meets the professional training that's required for implementation of the particular program. We still have to meet some requirements. We actually have a presentation coming up a little bit later in tonight's agenda. We do have some other requirements for training for principals and teachers.
Okay, thank you.
And also just point out, when we were running through the pandemic, school divisions did not have to match and do the textbook fund match. And this school division fortunately did. And so that puts us in a much better position today. Or like you said, with timelines being, not something we could have foreseen. We were anticipating this work at least 2 years from now. So the fact that even when it wasn't particularly convenient, that you all thought made it a priority to continue to match the textbook fund requirement through the pandemic makes it much more palatable for us to make this purchase at this point. And had we not done that, we would have been in a world of hurt. So well done as well. That was a very astute move at the time, and it wasn't necessarily convenient at the time. So
Thank you, and
well
that
done.
credit really goes to Mr. Honecker for
Yes.
making that.
Smart move. Well, I know you all will be back shortly, so Judy, Monica, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our last one under this section this evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Ms. Quintern and I were at the Academy of Technology and Innovation board meeting this past Wednesday, and some red lines as legal folks, I guess, continue to look through documents. We brought home 2 documents in particular. One is the operating agreement, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. The
laboratory.
is essentially the basically amendment to the 2 agreements, et cetera. And so we wanted to bring these forward to you all as soon as possible. And I'll also note that I'm working with the director of the program, Rebecca Towery, to be able to come here to a board meeting and to provide additional updates and any other information that you all may have questions on, so that way you can hear it directly from the program director. And I'm hoping that we can get that, if not this coming Monday, the work session in May before Memorial Day weekend.
The only thing at this time I would like to add, because I guess I have a section later on, is just to point out that with this academy, we fall under, because it's with Mary Washington, we fall under state and secondary and post-secondary laws. So that's one thing that they have to weigh, is especially with meeting requirements and such. So there's a lot of inner workings there that need to be weighed. So just keep that in mind as you review these 2 documents.
Questions from anyone?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. And then let's bring forward Monica and Judy again. And this is what both of these wonderful ladies were alluding to. We thought it especially tied in to not only the pending textbook acquisition and the instructional materials acquisition, but just to give the board a really strong update about the Virginia Literacy Act. So I believe this presentation will start a little bit about the background of VLA. Then we'll be able to get into specifically what we have been doing. And as Judy alluded to just a few minutes ago, we're very fortunate to have Monica. And she has been on the front lines of the science of reading well before it was fashionable at the VDOE. And so that wealth of knowledge has been very, very important for us as we move forward. So thank you, Monica, for really being on the front lines. And I happily turn it over to you all for your acumen and expertise.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share information about the Virginia Literacy Act, and this will provide hopefully enough background if you receive questions, and you'll certainly hear a lot of discussions about it in the coming years. To begin, the VDOE has laid out the goal for literacy instruction in Virginia, and I think it certainly aligns with our beliefs here in Orange that our students will be successful readers, writers, speakers, and listeners, and develop critical skills. And it certainly aligns with our mission statement that's part of our strategic plan. In accordance with the Virginia Literacy Act, the VDOE has been involved in supporting this, which is a multi-year effort beginning back in 2022, to make sure that school divisions, and we have received a lot of support through resources that they provide, trainings, networking sessions, and other technical assistance, as well as some funding to help support implementation of the science of reading in all of our classrooms. Here we've just outlined some of the timeline and background around the legislation. So beginning in 2022, in which legislation started out focusing primarily on K-3 classrooms. And you can see that as you progress through this to 2024, it's been expanded to include grades K through 8. And there are a lot of requirements around this legislation, some of which we met initially. One of those being the requirement of having one reading specialist to 550 students, which I believe you've heard that before from Dr. Hornick. But the legislation also lays out some very strict requirements in terms of the type of instruction, training, the types of plans that we provide our students and that we have as a division, as well as the screening system that we use for reading for our students. You probably recall in the past that we've used PALS as a phonological screener for students, and now we have transitioned to something called VALS, which is another literacy assessment, which is more in depth. Monica can certainly answer any questions about that. And we were one of the pilot school divisions for that, and we've been implementing that since it's first rolled out.
And if you're foreshadowing at all, you will see with the expansion of VLA, one of our next ports of call will be Renee leading a group of high-quality instructional material textbook adoption for 6-8. So that will be coming up in the not-too-distant future.
And as we move through this, you will hear an increasing number of acronyms. So we've done our best in the slides to make sure that we've defined everything. But Monica will talk a lot about what you're seeing here in terms of the requirement for evidence-based literacy instruction, or EBLI. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Monica to talk about the research and the science behind effective reading instruction and what that means for our teachers.
Hi, thank you. So the evidence that has come to light has been around for 50 plus years of research is built into this, and it spans multiple areas of research, the linguistics, psycholinguistics, and I won't read them all, and into education, but all of them were researching the effects of their area of the brain in order for people to learn how to read, not just children. And so it spans, and it's not just within the United States, it's actually the world that this research occurred and continues to occur. And it also is with reading and writing, that it's both components lumped into our learning to use a language code-based system. And the picture, to the right shows all of the parts of the brain that go into a student learning or a person learning to read. And as we read, all of us are using those parts of our brain continuously, some more than others, depending on what stage you are in reading, you're learning to read. So this is a depiction by Dr. Harlish Scarborough, and she was actually working with a group of upcoming teachers and was trying to explain to them all of the strands that are involved in learning to read. And she actually made this depiction with pipe cleaners, 2 colors, red and white. And she was trying to show them the importance of all of these strands being developed at the same time. And starting at the bottom is word recognition, and that's what research has shown us, is that we have to follow and use phonics instruction, direct linking sounds with letters, and let the sounds together to make words, the words together to make sentences. And so it has to start at that basic foundational level. And in previous instruction, that was not what we were, teacher preparation is not what we were told the science said. The science was saying immersion, and I'll go into a little bit more with a chart later about that. But to immerse students, and the more we provided students with books and let them explore and guided them, this would become natural. We know it's not natural. We start from spoken language, and that's what's innate in our brains. The system of writing was created by man, and so our brain is actually able to map and learn to add that, but we have to start with sight and sound and put that together in order to create that. So this was a depiction to show that these are the components that go into word recognition and then language comprehension. So background knowledge, you can see, is extremely important, and that's being shown. Vocabulary, the structures, our syntax, how language is laid out. And so there are multiple. Any fray in one of these lines or a break means that we will struggle with reading. So if I were to pick up a medical doctor's manual, I would have lots of phrase or breaks in this when it came to vocabulary or background knowledge. So I would struggle to read and comprehend in the end, and that's our ultimate goal, is to comprehend. And so I would not be a skilled reader at that within a medical textbook. So again, it's what we're reading at the point that we're reading. It doesn't matter the age of the person who's doing that. Okay. So this is the depiction that shows, so what we used to do is on the right-hand side, what we thought about it, and approaches. We asked students to look at the word and make a guess, to look at the pictures, look at cues around that word, and having a lesson. And the teachers provided crutches as they were going. And so we were there and we were guiding them and giving prompts as they were going, helping them to figure out what was happening. Whereas now our instruction is going to be sound-based. We'll focus on those sounds and provide the tools for students to have words as they learn to decode them and work with them with multiple practice. Then they are able to commit those to sight. But with that practice with sound, we're also teaching what a word means and how it is used in a sentence. So a word that has multiple meanings, you would teach those multiple meanings and show a student, like using language to show them how it would, would come across it in a text. So practice, I covered. Practice is extremely important. We're going for mastery. That words are committed to their long-term memory. And now the term at the bottom of the Scarborough's rope, you'll see word recognition or sight recognition. We have a sight vocabulary. Every person has a different sight vocabulary. And those are words we know instantly when they are on a page. Our brain does no work other than retrieve it. It knows how to say it. It knows how to spell it. And it knows what it means. So everything is attached. Until a word has all of that together, it will not stay in our sight vocabulary. So all of ours is housed on the left-hand side of the back of your brain. They call it the word letterbox. So your brain's letterbox, that's where all your words are held. So everyone has a different sight vocabulary, and that's our ultimate goal. But to get to that, we have to have practice. And the practice starts with those letter sounds and builds into talking about the meaning and then applying it within text and writing it. So it has to be, you teach reading and writing together. Previously, things were segmented out. We would teach writing at a different time than we would teach spelling was its own component. Now everything is interwoven. And that was one of the things for anyone who looked at our reading series. When we looked at those, that's how the new ones were laid out, is everything is interwoven within each other. And then at the end, the comprehensive daily lesson, it is directly and explicitly led by a teacher, modeling, showing students exactly what to do, including how to extract meaning from a text. So a teacher would read something aloud and pause as to model how he or she is thinking through getting that information off of the page. And we're not teaching skills in isolation. So the thought of teaching just main idea, well, to know what the main idea of something is, you need all these other skills that come together. So teaching just main idea, it's not going to work. And so in this instruction, everything is molded together, because the ultimate goal every time a student's in text or interacting with text is to understand that piece of text. That's that.
So the Virginia Literacy Act outlines roles and responsibilities for everyone who's involved in the literacy instruction of children. So we have always really collaborated among our reading specialists, teachers, students and families, administrators, but there are very specific requirements that are outlined in VLA. So by this fall, when we implement, every student is going to receive the evidence-based literacy instruction that Monica's been describing. We are still working on training some of our teachers, but we do have materials that are aligned with that. And any student who has not met benchmarks must have an individualized reading plan, and those are developed in conjunction with families, and we have been working on that already because we knew that requirement was coming up. Every family will have access to online resources and information and resources that they can use at home. And they will all, as I just mentioned, be able to participate in development of the individualized student reading plan. For every teacher, they will be required to utilize the evidence-based literacy instruction. In the curriculum that we've adopted, they will use the screener, which we've already begun to use as well. And coming up will be the interventions. Those have not been approved by the state yet. So the supplemental materials and interventions, we're still waiting those. But we will be required to use those for our students. And of course, participate in the training. And very similar for reading specialists. They'll be involved in both of those activities along with their teachers. And then as a division, every division is required to have a division literacy plan, which we have always had a division literacy plan, but it will be updated and revised. We're in the process of doing that right now to reflect the requirements in the Virginia Literacy Act, and making sure that we are providing the appropriate curriculum and the training for our teachers and our principals, and the work that we need to do to collaborate with our families. Monica's going to share some information now on our timeline and what we've been doing to be in compliance with the Virginia Literacy Act. Very thankful for her work in this area because she was able to tackle this and lead this very early on.
Sorry. That's okay. Got it. So again, kudos to the board because we were well staffed to meet the 1 in 550 for our students based with reading specialists. And then professional development, we started with IMSE training in December of 2022. And to pick up, because those are our neediest students that our reading specialists work with, and we knew that the change in instruction needed to occur for them as soon as possible. And so we were able to provide that professional development, and with that professional development also comes the materials for them to use to provide the instruction. So that's one of the positives of using that professional development is it comes with an entire kit of materials for teachers to use to implement. And with that, we also have had reading, other teachers were part of that based on how the purchase of it, so the seats. A George Mason T-TAC. We had they're our Region 4 for our help in technical assistance and training. And so for free, I can contact them, or anyone in our instructional department can contact them and say, I need help with professional development in an area, and they will work with you to create and help meet the needs of that. So we have utilized that multiple times for teachers and for our administrators. And then you can see we've talked about previously the vows. We piloted, researchers came in and did assessments in order to see which assessments would be the best, and all schools were open to, districts were to participate in this. And then we were offered, because we did participate in that, the opportunity to participate in the soft launch, which we have gotten to see what the new screener is. And also with that, it is a screener that's based in science, so therefore it could help us drive our instruction. So we were able to make changes this school year for students because we had the data to back it up. And so that soft launch, and then that well prepared us in order to write student reading plans. So we did our own pilot that we created in-house, a student reading plan with the information the state provided of the components they would be requiring. And so we have had experience with that and working with families to create those so they have the opportunity. And so then this coming year we will be the finalized VALS assessment will be launched for the whole state. And then our reading materials adoption and implementation, and then our student reading plan, the actual state one that is now approved, was approved at the last state school board meeting. We will be implementing that, and our division literacy plan steps.
So now just to wrap up with our next steps, we are working on finalizing our division literacy plan. We've actually been working very closely with other divisions in Region 4. We have a team from Orange who attends those. It's a network session that's hosted by the state and led by the state to take us through a process of developing the vision for your plan, as well as the communication and professional development piece. And on that committee on that team, we have Dr. Hornick, Monica, Dr. Honecker, and 2 of our principals who've been working through that. Within that plan includes our next steps for adoption and implementation of our core and supplemental materials, the professional development plan, how we will communicate what's going on with our families and other stakeholders, and then how we're going to monitor and evaluate our progress. In addition, there will be a phase 2 because we will be moving into the middle school range as well, and kind of replicating all of that work as well. So those those are our next steps, and it's a big lift. It's very time intensive, but good work. We do believe that this is going to make a big difference in our students' reading skills. Our teachers have been amazing. They've been very eager to get the training, and of course you can't train everyone at once, so that's gone in stages. But the teachers who have been trained have been very generous about sharing what they've learned with their colleagues, but also very excited to try it, to take those risks and continue to practice. We've seen a lot of growth among those teachers in our schools, and we're very grateful for their work because it does require extra work on their part in order to learn new skills. And they've been very open to that and worked very hard. Following our presentation, we have a link to the Literacy Act for you, as well as a one-pager, which kind of boils everything down. And then following this slide, there's some slides with resources that we've provided to families in some of our presentations as well. So you have access to those. Any questions?
Questions?
I'm curious about the results from the pilot program and the soft launch. Are we currently using PALS and the soft launch of VALS? Have the students been doing both things?
We're only using VALS. Which
VALS.
was part of that.
Do we have any results?
We will
Tangible
at the
results to
end of
see?
the year after that's done. There's not a mid-year benchmark, so it's a little bit difficult to say that students met a particular benchmark. Anecdotally, we did have some really great feedback from some teachers who said they did not see that regression in their students' skills over the breaks. So that was good to hear as well.
So does that mean with VALS there'll be a beginning of the year and an end of the year, whereas PALS had a mid?
Yeah, it's 3 times a year.
It is. It will be
It
3
is.
times.
It will be 3 times a year. The mid-year is not a benchmark. It's just meant to look at, just looking at the actual skills to skills, and just kind of saying, to readjust a place to kind of like that dipstick to say, yes, this child is progressing, or no, they're not. So right now, with the reports that we get, because it is a soft launch, they aren't compiling that information for us. Teachers have looked at it themselves, and principals have looked at it with teachers, class, student by student, because literally you have to go into each student's record to see it. So in meetings at schools, I have seen teachers sharing that information.
That's good news.
Yes.
To follow up on Ms. Dawson, we were part of the pilot program. So she asked my one question, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the second part of the question, what did the interaction, were you able to give feedback to the state in what you really liked and some of the areas that you did not see?
Every teacher and administrator involved was provided with a survey with very detailed questions and plenty of space for us to spell out. And along the way, they have asked, like when they rolled out a report, they would ask what else. Also, the website was very bare bones to start with. And so upon comments and information provided back, they have added materials and information to that.
Great. Dr. Hornick already believes this statement. Anytime we have the opportunity, Dr. Honecker as well, to sign up for a pilot program, please, we're the first ones to raise our hand. Anytime you can get in a room and for things like this, where we can not only impact our children here in Orange County, but then we can help the state to help steer what some of these things are, just from a common sense standpoint. One last thing, so great job, Dr. Hornick and all of you guys. So it looks like we're prepared from a staffing right from the get-go. So phenomenal. Thank you so much. Thank you for your, as Dr. Hornick said, your expertise in the area. One question and I'll be quiet. Anything else you need from us?
Well, right now we're just working on our next stage of professional development. So we're getting that scheduled for the summer. It's been great working with our finance department, working with Renee and Dr. Hornick in determining, for example, our reading specialists right now are having to invest a lot of extra hours in order to complete the modules that are required for them. So we've used the all-in spending plan to compensate them for that additional work. So it's definitely been a team effort. Dr. Hornick's been great about leading the way in terms of the expectations. That's very important for implementing this type of change. And then our principals at the building level as well.
I'm glad to hear the personal development piece has adjusted to the changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the resources for families, how often are you sending, or are we sending that out? I think it would be important for us to be able to send that out multiple times a year to the families, just to reiterate the importance of literacy.
The reading specialists, when they are meeting with students, do a progress report that goes home. And with that includes resources for parents. And then on the pages from each school, there are resources added as new things come available.
Would it be possible to send out like blast emails so that way it can stay on all of the parents, forefront of their mind? Would that be something we could do?
Something that we're really excited about that's happened in our schools this year is the teachers have worked very hard with parents in terms of modeling the changes in instruction. So for example, in our Title I schools, for their reading nights, they not only just shared with the importance of reading, but also had parents come in and actually participate in class to see how their students are learning. And that idea really originated with our parent advisory, in which some of the parents explained that they were used to helping students who had been taught differently, their older children, and then when they were working with their children this year and last year, their child said, "That's not how we do it, Mom." So it's been nice to have that type of instructional opportunity for parents to better understand and experience what their children experience, and that's something that we're replicating across our schools.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Is that with just the parents of children that are needing that additional service, or that's with all of our parents?
That was open to all parents.
That's
yes.
really amazing. This is exciting.
It is
very
exciting.
Thank you so much for your great work and for your passion and making sure that our students are going to receive such great instruction, and that we can hopefully keep going forward in the world at a high level of excellence. My question, I guess, is we're talking about achievement. We're talking at a transition for right now K-5 or whatever that grade level is, and all of our students are going to start this transition at a little bit different level. Mm-hmm. How is that going to impact our student achievement and or test scores? Is there something that's going to occur that will allow that part of the process to transition also, so we're not comparing apples to bananas, or is that what we're going to be left with, comparing this was how it used to be and this is now how it is?
Well, the goal is that it's going to positively impact all of our students. I think we can have the greatest confidence in those students who are starting out in kindergarten, right, with being instructed this way. However, that's really the idea behind the individualized reading plans, is that we're able to target those deficits that students have. And you think about good readers, sometimes a child can appear to be a very good reader but have gaps in some of their decoding skills or some of their phonics skills. So really diagnosing those and filling those in, and Monica's really the expert in that area. But the reading plans should help with those students catching up. And then we also have to remember that our teachers are in different places with the training and then the practice and the mastery of the instructional delivery as well. So we definitely have to give it some time, but we're certainly going to provide all the support that we can and then work around those individualized plans to target student needs.
Thank you. And you said the teachers were engaged. Are they excited?
All of the teachers who have been involved in the training I have seen are excited, unless they're just not telling me when I interact with them. I think others are very anxious to be trained. And so that's been part of the challenge, is there's just not enough time to take teachers out. The training that we did over the summer and in the fall, it was full 5 days of training. So that's a lot of time to invest. So it's very difficult to train a lot of teachers all at once. So that's why it's in phases.
I know this is the Virginia Literacy Act. Do we have any idea if this type of science-based literacy is being taught in other states?
I believe the last I saw were there 17 states that had now have laws similar to Virginia's that all structure around the type of instruction.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Judy, Monica. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. And for the final component this evening, we are proud to bring forward our next update on the strategic plan, and keeping with the theme of the evening, instruction. And so, Renee and Judy, I'd like to invite you to please come forward.
Bring your chairs if you would
Yep.
like.
Are you getting tired, Judy? Well, fortunately, we're getting to talk about what we love, instruction, so that's a great thing. So tonight, we're providing a strategic plan update. And just as a reminder, this is the work that was done by our strategic planning team. So that team established some beliefs that guide our work here in the division. And certainly you see that all of these support our students instructionally. And in particular, you'll see highlighted high expectations for our students' learning in the update that Dr. Honecker is going to provide. This is just a reminder that there were also parameters developed within the strategic plan, and these parameters are basically what guides our decision-making in all instances. So these are kind of our guide rails, I guess you could say, or guides as a division. And then finally, just a reminder of the mission for Orange County Public Schools, and just highlighting the emphasis on rigorous, engaging, and real-world learning experiences, which will tie nicely to what Renee has to share tonight. Just as a reminder, these are the focus areas that were identified by the strategic planning team, and we've already had updates, I believe, on safe learning environment, staff recruitment and retention, and tonight we're bringing forward instructional programming. Renee was the leader for the action team on instructional programming, and so she's going to take it from here with some updates in that area.
You can stay, in case there's questions for elementary. Okay. That's just an intro slide. Okay, so the instructional programming team had two objectives. The first was that we would ensure that all of our students graduate with education and essential skills to realize their greatest potential. And under that, there were two strategies: to develop and follow with fidelity a set of clear academic expectations at the division and school levels, and to provide learning experiences that promote critical thinking, creativity, curiosity, and a growth mindset. If we do that in our 5 years, which we will, and we're off to a great start, we will see a lot of benefits from that. And these are the benefits that were outlined by the Strategic Planning Committee and our action team. Some of these I think that you will see throughout what we're going to show you tonight that we have put in place so far. So I won't read them all to you, but if you have questions at the end, we can go back to them. Okay. Okay, so the first one, instructional programming. The strategy, again, was to develop and follow with fidelity a set of clear academic expectations, and we came up with these action steps to come up with clear and consistent academic expectations, specialists and interventionists to help our students who might need either expansion of our curriculum or help through interventions, to provide parent sessions on practices that promote growth mindset, curriculum audit, and try to incorporate the 5 C's in everything that we do, updating our classroom walkthrough documents and monitoring instruction for alignment, and having a balanced assessment program. And our second, Laura, was to provide the learning experiences that promote those things. And I won't read every one of these to you, but you can see that we had a lot of action steps that center around instructional materials that foster that critical thinking, training of teachers, so professional development that we're going to talk a little bit more about, providing parent sessions, which you've already seen, that they've started that with the Literacy Act. I just have to stop for just a second and reiterate what everyone said. Without Monica, we would not be where we are. Her expertise in this area is amazing, and her work with the state on this has really put Orange in a great place to fulfill that. So thanks, Monica. I would be remiss if I didn't say that as well. But providing those parent sessions, we've seen that. We'll talk a little bit about it when we get to the PD. But having parents involved in like the Literacy Act, those plans, but also we are doing something with math as well, where we were a pilot school, another example, where we had math plans for students in 5th and 6th grade. It makes a big difference when our parents are involved in that conversation about their students' achievement. Evaluating our current grading system, creating lesson plan formats, and developing PLC protocols. So those are some of the things that we did as action steps. Now, the next, this is, I just wanted to draw everyone's attention in the audience and to the board that all of our action steps will be updated on our division plan. Thank you, Laura, for the great-looking way that you had set it all up for us. So if you at home would like to see some of the action steps that we have made so far this year in our plan, you can go to the website and scroll down to Strategic Plan. It's right on the front. And then once you get to the Strategic Plan page, you'll see the different areas. So tonight we are going to focus on the instructional programming. Thank you, Laura. And this will take us right to the website, hopefully. Yes. So we have our objectives and strategies, and then below you have our action steps. So I'm not going to read every single one of them to you because I think that you can explore this and talk about it, but some of the things that I'll highlight, for example, the action step on establishing clear and consistent academic expectations by grade level. We use a VTSS process in all of our decision-making in Orange County Public Schools, and that's laid out here with a description of what that means and what it means in both our literacy and math worlds. If you'll go over to the second, there you go, the pacing guides. So all of our pacing guides are available to parents and the public. If you just want to click on language arts, would be fine. We have them in folders based on whether they're elementary, high school, or middle. If you go into one of them, it doesn't matter which one. You will see all the different syllabus in high school and the pacing guides. If you want to go to an elementary, oh, go ahead, that's fine. I don't know if you hit syllabus or a pacing guide, Laura. Let's go back to, yeah, let's do a pacing guide. Doesn't matter which one. There you go. We have a pacing guide format that we use, and we are updating that this summer with our teacher groups that come in each summer to do this. Oh my goodness.
It's creating the pacing guide.
Greg,
Greg.
where's your magic wand?
I promise they're there.
Does I get fussed at for that? Let's see.
You can actually see part of it from just clicking on it. You can see that we have one for each grade, so a parent can go in and they can see the SOL, the classroom instructional activities, the assessments that would be used, and the materials that are used. So that's for every grade, every content area in the division. And so that's open for parents and students and you. So sorry that took a while. We also went through our walkthrough observation guides for our principals and updated those this year. And we update these every year based on the standards of learning that might change or just some protocols, like the Virginia Literacy Act, for example. Next year's walkthrough for literacy will match what the expectations are. So we won't try to click on these. I'm not sure what's going on in here, but you can look at those at your leisure when you're sitting at home with a cup of coffee. So we don't have anything yet under number 2, so you don't have to click on that one for the prioritizing hiring of reading and math specialist or interventionist. But we do have reading specialists, and we do meet that requirement that you saw earlier. We have the one math specialist at the division level that works with all of our schools. Audit our current curriculum and incorporate the 5 C's. We again, if you go into our pacing guides, you'll see that. Another way that we feel like we have really upped the ante a little bit when it comes to the communication, collaboration, all of those, is our student opportunities that we are now a part of with the Future Educators Academy and the UMW Academy of Technology and Innovation. Those are two opportunities that we didn't have before, and we thought it was good to showcase it here too, because that is a way that we are providing our students with many more opportunities that will expand in those areas. So you can go back. So we updated our classroom walkthrough, which I've shown you. Monitor instruction for alignment to academic expectations through lesson plans and observations. And then you'll see there we have the observation tools and lesson plan tools that our coordinators, there is a lesson planning tool that can be used. It can be adapted by the school, but it's a sample for them to use. They can change it a little, but so the science coordinator comes up with one for science. The math, Monica came up one for literacy and language arts. So those are all in there. And if you go down to strategy 2, let's see, which one could we offer? We're going to talk about professional development here in a minute, so I'm going to skip that one. But we have, go to the parent sessions one. That's number 4. That's one. So we've had several parent sessions, parent nights at different schools. Our gifted teachers always have several gifted parent information nights. One that's a division-wide parent night where they can choose different courses to take. While they're here, they can rotate through. We have a Title I. Judy works with the Title I program. They have a parent night. We've had STEM nights. Our ELL teachers host an ELL parent night. They're always there in their schools and providing things in the language spoken by the families, but they also have one where they come together as a community and provide a lot of different types of services for the ELL families. This year, one of our guidance counselors at the high school actually talked about career and technical education programs, as well as going to community college, FAFSA, going to a 4-year college, and she came in, she did it all in Spanish because she speaks fluently. So it was a really well-received evening for our ELL families. And then reading nights at the various elementary schools. This that you see on the right is the Bridging the Gap that I was talking about. This is the program that we are a pilot school system, and we have 5th and 6th grade classrooms where we have math learning plans that are written out for our students who are struggling in math. That's been an interesting thing. Sarah Hallam, our math coordinator, and Evan Straub have been huge in that and working with the schools to provide those plans, and working with the students have a part in it too in setting their own goals. So that's also part of that growth mindset that we've talked about. Let's see. I've already done those. And the PLC protocols, we haven't talked about those. We've developed PLC protocols. We use this Professional Learning Communities book that you see here, and each school has designated time to support their PLCs within the class. It depends on what their schedule looks like at their school. Some meet after school, some meet during the school day. I think we've talked about PLCs before. We also used a PLC protocol on our last Professional Learning Day, where everyone had a chance to sit down with their PLCs using a protocol to go through and look at different pieces of student data prior to the SOLs, analyze where they are, and make some changes and put in place some remediation practices before the SOLs. So that was our last Professional Development Day. We let the schools lead it, and the lead teachers led it. So those are just some examples of some of our updates. Every time we do something, we put it on here, so this is updated regularly. Okay, Laura, if you'll go back to the next slide. I'm going to let you talk because I'm out of breath. Just kidding. So the next thing we wanted to talk about was professional development. And when we look at professional development in the division, there is a lot of professional development that we organize out of our office, but also that is organized within the schools themselves. It depends on what a school's needs are. So I'm going to let you talk about the first two, and then I'll come back just what these circles are. Yeah.
So each school develops a continuous school improvement plan each year, and they, as part of that plan, develop the professional development that they would need to provide in order to reach the goals that they have for their students. And that often involves the work with our coordinators as well. So there can be some overall things that we're working on across the division, but there can also be something specific to each individual school as well. In addition to that, we do think about PD as having many different formats. So there's the standalone PD. Some of our teachers are taking courses. That's certainly professional development or attending workshops, and we sponsor many of those. Everything from our involvement with the Virginia School Consortium for Learning, and we sponsor and pay for the registration fee for our teachers for that. And sometimes those are free just by the fact that we are part of that consortium. In addition, our ELL teachers and gifted teachers have attended state and national conferences for their areas as well. But sometimes maybe even more important than those kind of standalone sessions or courses, well, the coursework is quite in-depth, so I can't say that, but maybe more so than some of the standalone sessions would be that job-embedded professional development that our teachers engage in on a regular basis. And the research would say that that's sometimes the most powerful professional development because it's connected to the daily work and it's related to the students that you're working with every day. So what Renee was referencing earlier with that opportunity to work around student data and talk about changes to instruction is some of the most powerful professional development, along with PLC work when our math and science or reading coordinators are going in and working with teams on strengthening their instructional practices. So that's another form of PD as well.
So Laura, if you'll click on professional development, we wanted to show you just some of the professional development that we have held this year. And I know it's a little small, but what we tried to do was to put it in different categories based on different groups of people. So a majority this year in both K through 12 really was math, science, and of course our literacy. So those were the huge common things that I think were focus areas for K through 12. But if you look here, there are things in here that will show you that PD is, like Judy said, very different based on the need. It could be going to a conference. It could be something that we offer. It could be going to a consortium meeting, things like that. For like our coordinators are involved. Like you heard Monica, she's involved in professional learning through the cohort that she works with in Region 4. They've been working on the Literacy Act all year. So that's professional development for those types of teachers. You'll also see on here that we have PD on things like Performance Matters. That's the platform we use for our testing. So everybody has to understand how to use that. So sometimes professional development is just basically on something that you need to know how to use. But most of the time we do try to make it something that's relevant to either the content area or instructional practices that we are utilizing in the classroom. So if you kind of just scroll a little bit, you'll see, Laura, the different areas. Our media specialist had their PD this year because they got a new program. So it's just all kinds of different areas. So we thought it would be, we've included our new teacher work, our school-based leadership, even our administrators have had that, our division leadership, some of the PD that's gone on there as well. And spread throughout, all of our teachers come to these PD sessions. So some of this would have both like ELL teachers, gifted teachers, special education teachers, classroom teachers. It depends on what the topic is. So. And that's kind of an update on where we are. Like I said, this is a 5-year plan, and we are constantly changing and moving as the state gives us new initiatives or new things come up. Or so keep going back to the website. I'm saying that not as much for your benefit, but for the public, so that they can keep an eye on what we're doing as well. And we really, again, thank Laura for setting it up that way. I think it's really easy to go through and see what we're doing. So any questions on anything you've heard?
I actually have a couple questions, but really more or less statements. I love the fact that everything is on the website. It looks very self-explanatory, easy to understand. And maybe you're already considering this, but I'm wondering if we're having, like, maybe for parent night, we actually go through and show parents how to find it?
That would be a great idea. You mean at the different schools? Mhm.
Yes, yeah. Or if it's an individual, you know, whether it's a teacher or if it's a whole group, something so that they know it's there. But I think the problem
Here's how to
is
find it.
not being able to find it. So that'd be great. But thank you very much for all that work. That looks wonderful.
And we are also taking the meeting videos. So Greg and his team will take this portion of when Judy and Renee started until this portion ends, splicing it out, and then adding that captioned as one of the components too. So when Yvonne came up and did the update on human resources and recruiting and retention, when Susan and Marshall talked about the safe and secure learning environment. So when we have these board reports, we are actually taking that portion of the meeting that is germane specifically to that particular topic. And so we'll do the same thing here. So, so you have various modalities through which the community can access what we're doing and catch the updates.
I would just say thank you again. Impressive, and the work that you guys are doing to support both our teachers and our students, and bringing parents in and getting them involved and making sure that their students have that support also is amazing. So thank you.
Very well done. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I know that was ambitious this evening, but all very important and relevant. And Ms. Anderson, I turn it back over to you. Thank you very much.
We'll try to make our part quick.
Yeah, we got a little, we were excited tonight.
No, that was all great information. Yeah, very well done. And Ms. Quintern, you have a regional school board report.
Yes, so earlier you guys saw the 2 documents. I just asked that we all read through those with a fine-tooth comb. We have multiple school board representatives from Stafford, Fredericksburg, King George, Caroline, and possibly working with Spotsylvania moving forward. So it is a well-rounded group of schools that are participating in this. We do have 6 confirmed students, 5 confirmed students.
With 7 on, with 7 additional that are on a waiting list.
7 on a wait list. I am working to maybe get some more of those students onto the open seats. There are a few, and we're working through developing policies so that way the pool of seats that are available for non-participating schools, once we reach a certain deadline, looking to be able to offer those seats to participating school boards. There's an allotment for 100 students to participate in this program next year. We're on track for about 85, I want to say.
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's, it's brand new, but I know the staff are really excited. We have a director, we now have an assistant director and an office manager. We're looking to start with adding teachers and, filling all of the staffing requirements. We also recently approved the security assessment plan. I'm not sure, that's not the technical term, but
the emergency preparedness
yes,
plan.
The
Yes,
emergency
yes.
preparedness plan. So that was at the last meeting. So really excited about being able to be part of this opportunity. It was the at-large lottery seats. It looks like there are going to be a minimum of 5 seats that are available to students of non-participating school divisions. And we will be bringing that policy forward at the next meeting. Additionally, at the end of next month, we will be voting on the 2 documents that were provided earlier this evening. So I asked that at the next meeting we have either some amendments or changes, or if we are okay with it, that we vote at the next meeting. So that way we can have that prepared as Dr. Hornick and I go back before the rest of the board at the end of next month.
That's right.
So that concludes my report out. Lots of good things.
Ms. Quinter, may I ask a question on this? Are these our students that go to a different location? Okay, and just for the technology, just for this?
So it would be an all-day schedule, and these students would be going with the other students. We are providing transportation for the students to get over to the Mary Washington campus in Stafford off of Route 17. They have a dedicated building just for the high school students, so there's not going to be crossing over of college students and high school students. They are also looking to bridge the two schools so that way their education students might be able to come in and obtain different credits and stuff that way, but that's all still developing. But they'll be there all day, and so later this summer they will be having an open house. I don't see why not you all attending, but it's definitely a great program. I'm excited about it.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Quintern. Letter B, follow-up discussion, student council non-voting representative to the board. I believe, Ms. Harrington, you were the one that wanted us to add this back in, so I'll let you start.
Well, as we are aware, last board meeting, we had Jackson Hamilton come in and provide a presentation and recommendation on policy, excuse me, recommendation on developing policy that would provide a non-voting student representative or representatives chosen through a combination of student council and board processes to sit with the board and work with us on governance. However, I think that we are considering that it was a little bit late in the year to really allow Jackson the opportunity to present this to the student council and get it fully implemented. And additionally, we were looking at other models and other programs that we wanted to compare, so we made sure that we took the time to choose how to proceed with this in a well-informed manner. And I think at this time we're not quite there as far as making a motion to bring this type of representative back to the board. But I would suggest that we do consider and maybe invite our student council representative or representatives on a monthly basis to come in and just give us a report of things that they may feel are pertinent to the high school and that board members may be interested in, and hopefully further down the line we can transition and maybe actually bring a student representative to the board.
I think that's a great idea. I would recommend having it at a work session. I think that's typically a more well-rounded meeting. There's a lot of meat there, and I do think that would be an appropriate time for having the student representatives. So carving out specific time just for the student government to come out and report if they have anything. Maybe we could have Ms. Anderson reach out, or Dr. Hornick, as they're developing the agenda.
And that would be very much appreciated. Hopefully the rest of the board members would be willing to go to that. We could just do a thumbs up.
I would absolutely agree, and would actually ask Ms. Harrington if everybody else, to kind of take the lead on that a little bit, if everybody else is in agreement. But any kind of interaction that we can have with our young people down there is no question a good thing. Thank you for this.
Thank you. I would definitely defer to the chair, but would be more than willing to work with you on this.
I think you were 100% correct. I think we're just way too far in the year to really start something at this magnitude. As far as having a board member as a student board member. I love the fact that they would be presenting to us. I think this is a great opportunity. We've never really had students give us input from the high school, giving us, input from what's going on day to day, even if it's just an update on what's happening with sports. There's so many avenues that this could take, and it could be multiple students doing a presentation. But, I personally feel that this would be something that would be under Dr. Hornick's proposal or presentations.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would be more than happy to, or even Ms. Harrington, if you'd be more than happy to figure out which group we start with and how we get them to come to a board meeting. Obviously, I think we only have one board meeting left before the end of school, which is a public comment session. So if they were willing to come after school's out, I think that would be an option as well.
And Ms. Anderson, I would request possibly that we allow Jackson to be that person that comes in and provides that final year-end presentation to us.
He is the president of the student government, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's appropriate.
I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So we'll work with Jackson and Ms. J to get him here for May 22nd, I believe, is the work session in May. I know we're about to do calendar, and 100% we can make that work, and I think it's a great idea. So happy to help for sure. We will make it work.
Thank you all. The last item we have before communication is board member comments. Is there any additional information that we would like to bring up or discuss, or I'll open that up.
I do, Madam Chair. Today we had a Head Start meeting. Again, we failed to have quorum. So I suggested that I would come before the board and let everybody know that we are looking for community members to work with us on the Head Start Policy Council. I've enjoyed my time. It's a great organization. It's for Head Start and Early Head Start and VPI, I believe. So I know that I was going to ask Laura if you wouldn't mind sending out an email blast. The Head Start Policy Council members, I have clarified they do not have to be parents of Head Start students. They have to have some kind of tie to Orange County, either works or lives in Orange or have students that are here. But I did send you some information. If possible, maybe also posting on Facebook if that's, I know this is kind of outside of my purview, but if that's acceptable. And then lastly, enrollment is open for Head Start, Early Head Start, BPI, and we are looking to fill those seats. So if we could also send an email blast, maybe even the same one, just advertising the link to where you can sign up and just get ahead of this. Last year we struggled to get enough students enrolled, and that caused some issues with federal guidelines, and so the earlier we can get these seats filled up, the better, and it's going to serve our community better as well.
I'll also speak to it at each of my end-of-year advisory committees as well. Looking for folks. I have a few in mind that we can make some personal calls to.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That concludes me.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, just very briefly, I would just like to see, I know we've talked about it at one point, I believe, and Laura has done an amazing job with updating the calendar. And I think that we, at least I believe this is true, except for the committee meetings that we are on as board members, we kind of go to different events or activities or recognitions or those types of things at different schools as we feel we want to go. And I've had a couple comments from parents going, it would be nice if we had board members at all these things. So I don't know if it would be agreeable or not, but what I was thinking is, as Laura has updated the calendar so amazingly, is we take a month or a quarter or some period of time where we each go through it and say we will go to these events, just so that we make sure and cover each school one or two times. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we care. We can't be at all of them, but it would be nice to at least make sure that we had somebody designated to go to something on a monthly basis. So just a recommendation. That's it.
And then, Greg, I didn't know, quickly, I know you worked with VHSL in our school. That we had informed the board that we had been having a hang-up with those two calendars speaking to one another, and I believe we have that issue rectified. You were able to work with our school, and so we should have as long as the input is good, we're going to have. If you look at it. Yeah. So, so when you look at this now, what you wouldn't have seen before, I'll take the 17th for example. you wouldn't have seen anything from outdoor track down because we didn't have the high school athletic calendar automatically populating to our division calendar. And Greg and his team were able to navigate that issue. And so now you no longer have to go to two different places. And so sporting events will now be on the calendar, just like Purple Up Day and 8th grade field trips and the whole 9 yards. And so that's definitely really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I still did, I think on the high school page, there's still a link directly to that Jefferson area
Jefferson.
calendar.
Yeah,
If
Jefferson
you want to go
District.
straight to
Jefferson
that.
District, yeah.
Thank you. And number 6, Ms. Byram, our May 6th draft agenda. Oh, we have
Okay.
one more. Would you like to, Jack?
you were going to, that's why. I was just going to compliment Dr. Honaker. I attended, actually, the chair and I attended the FFA event. It was terrific. It was really good. Seeing the young people running the entire thing. So kudos to the FFA, the teachers, everybody that put a lot of hard work into it. And then one of our own dedicated the venue for it as well, which was greatly appreciated. So thank you.
I will just add that the food was wonderful.
It was good.
And the dessert was provided by Hornet Helpers. Is that, yeah, it was wonderful. All right, Ms. Byram, sorry. Thank
okay.
you. Thank you, Jack.
So, the May agenda, we will have action on all of the items that we didn't take action on tonight. I'll just remove the field trip. For recognitions, we do have a special recognition. If you can recall, I believe it's the Office on Youth. I think I might be getting this confused, but there's a poster contest and they're going to recognize the winners. It's about being tobacco free. So they'll be coming that evening, and then we'll have a few staff recognitions that evening as well. Let's see. And then Mr. Arnold is going to present a new item for that evening. The bids will have been opened for the Gordon Barber roof replacements. And then superintendent's reports, and some of this is just a placeholder in case we have to add something, so there may not be anything there.
Yeah, we were hoping that the Gordon Barber roof, we would be able to do it tonight, but just didn't quite make it, correct, Doug? So we'll,
That's correct.
yeah.
The bidders, almost all of them said they need more time.
Yeah.
All right, and then we can move on to calendars. Don't have a heart attack when you see May pop up. May is quite full. I know there are things on here that I have missed, but right now I've tried to add everything. I got all of the senior week events added on here for you. And I'm trying to check the calendar each couple days to see if I need to add anything else to this. And you'll just want to note that we did move the work session to the 20th in May.
Oh, 22nd.
Because of the holiday on the 27th. And then once we switch to June, things quiet down a little bit. So, and it looks like unless the date has changed, is the retiree still June 5th, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
June 5th, Yvonne?
Okay. Well, that's
We'll
when
do
I
it
have
June
it
5th.
down, and if it's not correct, I'll let you know.
I'll get with Jen in the morning and we've got teacher recognitions on the brain right now, so.
Yeah. So,
June 4th is our next Head Start Policy Council meeting at 3:15.
thank you.
That was also moved because of the holiday.
I would like to see if anybody opposes, but changing the 24th meeting to the 17th,
You read my mind.
June, sorry.
change it from the 24th to the 17th?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Is that an issue with anyone else?
I was going to ask that. Actually, I'm out
Oh,
that week.
okay.
Yes, that's what you read my mind. So, yes, ma'am.
All right. So if everyone's in agreement with the 17th, if Chelsea's
Sure.
still checking.
Sorry, I've got several calendars.
I know.
That's fine.
Thank you. Right. And I believe that's everything, Ms. Byram?
I think so.
Okay. All right. All right. Ms.
Motion
Dawson, please.
for closed session pursuant to 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board will convene a closed meeting for the following: discussion of personnel or the performance of a division employee as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. We're in closed session.
Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
On you for the comic relief.
We appreciate it.
I'm a funny guy.
It's needed.
Leave it at that.
I would like to call this meeting back to order. Ms. Dawson, can I have certification? No, it's not certification. Yes. Certification, please.
Whereas the Orange County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Orange County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Ms. Byram, can we have roll call?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Need a second. Thank you.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Dawson,
Aye.
Mrs. Harrington,
Aye.
Mrs. Quintern,
Aye.
Mr. Rickett.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the vote as follows: 5 yes votes, no votes. The resolution is approved by a 5-0 vote.
Dr. Hornig, deposition of personnel.
Yes, ma'am. Recommend approval of the personnel actions as presented in closed session.
May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
She has to read the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I'm asleep.
I make a motion to recommend approval of the personnel agenda to include retirement, resignation, reduction, transfer, salary adjustment, and employment of staff.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anything else?
Madam Chair.
We're closed for the night.
Thank you.
It's for business.